Great. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Allie Stiefel. I'm the director of the Regeneron Science Talent Search, the nation's oldest and most prestigious STEM research competition for 12th grade students. We are so excited to be with you tonight, whether you're an entrant who's working on their application for this 2022 cycle, or an educator who's helping a student through the process, or someone who might want to enter a couple of years from now. We're delighted to have you join us for our 4th webinar this year. If you missed our prior 3 webinars, please check out our website and you'll find them linked right at the top. Some great tips for educators and anyone who's been interested in applying this year. But tonight we have a very special treat. We're so excited for you to meet some of the recent winners of the Regeneron Science Talent Search and to hear straight from them about the impact the program has had on their lives. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Elaine, who will introduce a special video before that starts.
Hi, everyone. And just to echo Allie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Or if you're watching this later as a recording, thank you for being here and for your interest in the Regeneron Science Talent Search. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all our highlights video from this past year of competition. Regeneron STS 2021 was a virtual event. And we have some excellent folks here today to tell you all about that. But first, let's take a look at some of the excellent and interesting things that they did.
I like to think of myself as a lifelong researcher. Ever since 7th grade, STS has been my goal.
I knew from the start I would read the Finalist projects, and I hoped that one day that could be me.
I remember I walked into this big room full of trifolds. People who were in there told me that these were projects for the Regeneron Science Competition. And I was just so amazed that this was like an opportunity that I could have as a high schooler.
STS is, the best competition for seniors and honestly in science in all of high school. So to be one of the top 40 feels amazing.
Oscar Wilde wrote, "When it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars." The 40 Regeneron Science Talent Search finalists are the embodiment of this quote. They aren't just looking for stars, they are shooting for them.
This pandemic, the past year, really couldn't stop us from pursuing our scientific dreams.
Following COVID-19, my lab got shut down, so I had to find some other way to try to continue my research.
In order to adapt and improvise, I built a makeshift neuroscience lab in my bathroom.
Originally, I was testing patients in the office. I had to change the direction of my research to allow for more testing without contact. I think one thing that's kept me motivated is that ability to keep on learning. I was learning new tools.
I think I learned that in order to do research, I had to be able to take more risks. You always have to be ready to try new things.
This week has been so amazing and so inspiring, with events ranging from alumni dinners to talent shows.
One of my favorite events was the virtual escape room. It was just an amazing way to bond with each other, share different types of information.
We've had the opportunity to go on a virtual field trip to Facebook, to SpaceX, and I was particularly psyched about going to the Honorary Bay Aquarium.
Today we had a really cool prime time with Regeneron, where they took us around their genetics center and taught us about what it is that makes Regeneron special in the genetics department.
We have had 13 alumni win the Nobel Prize. I'm so honored to have 4 of those alumni with us today.
It's very important for young people to get confidence. It's one of the most important assets a scientist can have, to be brave.
Just getting this exclusive access to some of the nation's leaders and being able to learn how we directly can make a difference.
I really liked meeting all the judges, and the interviews have all been very interesting. I got to hear a lot of interesting questions.
I was really excited to go into each judging room and hear what the judges asked me, but also I was really excited after the judging to just play games with my fellow finalists.
Every single day has just been a compendium of events, tons of Zooms, and as soon as all those Zooms finish, I'd eat dinner and get back on Zoom with my other finalists.
I've been able to meet a lot of really cool, really smart, really amazing people my age who are just really inspiring, the stories they have.
It's almost just like a team building event, even though it still technically is a competition.
I'm just so grateful that even if it is difficult to do things remotely, it really is possible to make really valuable connections and brighten each other's days.
Hands down, it's been one of the best weeks of my life.
Today I got the chance to see the projects of all the other finalists, and it was just so amazing how it just spanned across all areas of sciences, and some of them are just so pertinent issues that really needs to be addressed.
The inspiration for my project was seeing many of my peers using e-cigarettes and knowing that a lot of them thought that they were harmless.
My algorithm can improve traffic flow, decrease the number of car crashes, and also decrease the amount of pollution caused by vehicle-related emissions.
My project is about developing better computer architectures to better support artificial intelligence algorithms.
My research is on discovering a new chemical reaction that can create a variety of pharmaceutical intermediates like the antidepressant milnacipran.
My project is about studying how socially vulnerable communities have been impacted by infectious disease spread like COVID-19.
It's incredible that we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Science Talent Search. Going back, it's incredible to realize the numbers of important scientists who went on to invent new medicines, to win Nobel Prizes, to change the world.
To be selected as one of 40 finalists means that hopefully I'm on the right direction to becoming a great scientist in the future.
Being a Regeneron Science Talent Search finalist really makes me feel so empowered to go out in the world and really make differences through science.
So many of the alumni have accomplished such great things that just being part of that community is just a really amazing and really humbling experience.
It means that I'm really capable of solving the worst problems that are yet to come.
It gives me the confidence that if I keep continuing, then I will be able to get results, and that motivates me to keep going.
Being an STS finalist, it's not just a title, it's something that I can use to show other first-generation Latina kids out there that they can do it too.
It's really cool to see my own project inspiring other people to join the science research program. I really enjoy that this puts me in a position to help other young scientists.
To know that I'm inspiring some kid somewhere in a classroom, like, that is enough to get me out of the bed in the morning, and that's really who I do it for.
I think the importance of young people, especially right now, is that we are faced with a world that has a variety of different challenges, and the only way that we're going to be able to combat them is all sorts of perspectives.
Knowing that there's so many sciences in so many places, working on so many different things, does give me hope for the future.
One thing that gives me hope for the future is science is almost impossible for it to go backwards because, you know, knowledge is always being built upon.
To be able to hope for a brighter future, I think, is one of the key driving forces between research, hoping that we can make a better future and then actually acting upon it.
Welcome to this very special evening, the award ceremony for the 80th Annual Regeneron Science Talent Search.
It is now my honor to announce the top 10 winners of the 2021 Regeneron Science Talent Search. The 10th place winner, Sam Christian. The 9th place winner, Vivian Yi. The 8th place winner, Wenjin Ho. The 7th place winner, Ale Shah. The 6th place winner, Betri Vev. The 5th place winner, Timothy Chengwei Tian. The 4th place winner, Gopal Krishna Goyal. The 3rd place winner, Ishani Jha. The 2nd place winner, Noah Benjamin Getz. And the 1st place winner, Yunso Choi.
Great. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that quick synopsis of the program from 2021. And it really is a pleasure for Elaine and I to know these young people, and we're so excited for you to get to know them a little bit better tonight. So with that, finalists, please turn your cameras on. We're going to have some fun and some introductions before we dive into what makes STS so great and kind of the impact that it's had on all of you. So what we'll do today, since we have some groups who are together on their various campuses across the country tonight, we'll have them introduce themselves by square, if that works for you all. So Justin, your square, please go ahead and introduce yourselves to us.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Justin. I am at Harvard College here. I am originally from Hockessin, Delaware, and currently I'm planning to study mechanical engineering and government.
I'm Vivian He. I'm originally from Beverly Hills, Michigan, and I'm currently attending Harvard College. I'm currently planning on concentrating in statistics.
I'm Tally. I'm from Miami, Florida, also at Harvard, and I'm planning on concentrating in biomedical engineering.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Sam, introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Christian. I go to MIT along with Fareed, Vetri, and Wenjin. And I'm originally from Austin, Texas, and I'm planning on probably majoring in physics and math.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sam. Vetri and Fareed.
Hi, I'm Fareed. I go to MIT. I'm originally from Virginia, and I'm planning on majoring in computer science and mathematics.
And hi, I'm Vetri, and I'm also at MIT, and I'm originally from Bangor, Maine, and I'm thinking of majoring in electrical engineering and computer science, and also physics.
Very good. Thanks, guys. We'll round out the MIT group here with Wenjin.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Wenjin. I went to high school in Portland, Oregon, Jesuit High School. I go to MIT right now. I live in Baker House. Just moved in, actually changed dorms in the middle of the semester, which is actually I got very lucky. Anyways, I'm probably very likely going to do computer science as my primary major. I'm considering, just like lately, I've been considering like adding on a math second major or like management, but we'll see what happens. We'll find out later.
Got plenty of time still. All right, we'll turn it over to the Yale crowd here next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy. I'm originally from New York, Long Island. I'm going to Yale, and I'm considering majoring in molecular biophysics and biochemistry.
Hi, I'm Parisa Baziri. I'm from Plano, Texas. I'm also going to Yale, and I'm planning on majoring in neuroscience.
Hi, I'm James. I'm from Arlington, Virginia, also at Yale, and I'm planning on majoring in chemistry or chemical engineering.
Hi, I'm Vedant. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, but I'm at Yale with them as well. I plan on majoring in computer science and physics.
We'll unmute. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I know all of our viewers are going to be very appreciative of everything you have to say, and especially in these last 10 days before the application, right? You might have a lot of questions or doubts about, is this all worth it? And so we're hoping tonight to show you that it absolutely is. We hope that you will join us in the tradition of the Science Talent Search and the many amazing alumni who've come before all of these folks who are with us. So Elaine, I'll let you kick off the first question for our crowd. Oh, I should also add, viewers, if you have any questions tonight for our finalist alumni, please leave them in the chat, and then we will share those questions with our group here, and we'll try to get to them at the end of our session tonight. So please feel free to leave them in the chat. And with that, I'll turn it over to Elaine.
All right, so the first question I have is for Wenjin. And it is, why did you decide to apply to STS, and what did you want out of the experience?
So first, I heard of STS from my boy Rupert, who we went to the same school. He was a grade above me, and like he was one of my relatively closest friends when I was in I met him my first year there. We both did Science Bowl, both did History Bowl, and and so he did STS, and he also won like fourth place, so everybody heard about it and everything, and so he's very good at math, I will say, and other things of course, but math is one of the biggest things that he's very good at. And so and I heard about it from him. I was very impressed, and it just seemed like a great way to apply, because I had been doing research in high school, and working at Portland State University, and I thought it was a great way for me to maybe disseminate my research to others, let it potentially be shown to the world, and make it have a greater impact on the world.
Oh, that's great, Wenjin. And so lucky that you had that kind of near peer role model, someone you knew in your community. And if you're out there and you don't know anyone who's ever participated, that's great too. You have this group tonight that you get to hear from, right? Or the highlights video, but a special bonus, and maybe our finalists have inspired others at their own high schools too. And Wenjin, you probably inspired other people from your school. So that's really great. My next question, I'll ask Sam and Vivian, whoever wants to go first. I'm curious, what was your application experience like, and what do you remember from that time? Sam, would you like, or Vivian, you seem ready. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can get it started. I would say the experience of doing that application was definitely a lot of work, but I think the whole experience itself was very reflective. I enjoyed all the different prompts that we got to do, from just like reflecting on the technicalities of our project to be able to write more about our own motivations. And I found it to be like, even though it did take quite a while to finish the entire application, it was something that I did thoroughly enjoy putting together.
Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I remember it being a pretty stressful process, particularly because it's as all you seniors know, it's at the same time as you're filling out college applications. But actually, that ended up being kind of an advantage in a way, just because you can use so much material from your college applications on your STS application, particularly in like the non-project parts of it. So that ended up kind of being helpful in a way. And I also remember, I clearly remember like being stressed out, like I was saying, okay, I'm going to submit it. And then I like triple checked everything 3 times, submit it. And then I realized after you submit it, of course, until the deadline, you can edit it all you want. So know that you can do that with your application.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I think my next question is going to go to Lucy. You submitted your STS applications around a year ago, and maybe college apps too, as you all have been mentioning. It is a really busy time in the life of a high school senior. So do you have any tips out there for entrants who are trying to manage that workload?
Yes, I totally understand that in the past few days, especially with college application, it can get very stressful. For me, I planned out of 2 weeks of writing just the application essays. And for my paper, I kind of planned it out for a month about which specific sections I want to write for on specific days. But I totally understand that different people have different working plans. Like some people can write it in a short amount of time. So I think it's best to know like what mood or what mode that you are working best in, and then just follow that and then make your plan to work through it. And you will know when if it's too stressful to you, and then just make a plan to work towards it.
Yeah, that's really great advice, Lucy. And I always recommend to students, if you can, if it works for you, the small chunks, breaking it down into small tasks too. So I'm glad that worked for you. And then we have kind of a follow-up question, and Lucy, you can answer it. And if others want to chime in on this one, that would be great too. We know that, with all the other events like college applications and things that you're going through in this time, it can be very stressful. So we're curious if anyone has tips for how to take care of your mental health during this time, because that's definitely important for young people your age.
I think like just to persuade yourself like what you did is already, you worked for it so hard, you worked on it for such amount of time, and then once you click that submission button, you should feel accomplished, like that's what you did, and then you should be proud of your work. It's a chance to like not just to win something, but to let people know that your project is great, like let to people know that you did something that belongs to you. So yeah, just be proud of your work and don't stress about it. Yeah.
Great advice. Anybody else on that one?
I guess another piece of advice that I personally would have is like, don't feel afraid to take like a break from the application. If you feel like you're writing something and you really aren't getting anywhere in the moment, like just get up from your computer, take a walk around. Sometimes you get into a new mindset or you get new ideas when you are taking breaks that you can integrate in. So don't stress out too much about like trying to do it all at once. It's always good to like just let yourself have some free time and just walk away from the application for a bit in order to de-stress.
Yeah, that is really good advice. Great, thank you. Elaine, I'll let you do the next one.
Absolutely. All right, so my next one is going to go, I think, to James and Tali. What advice would you give to rising 12th grade students who are considering applying to Regeneron STS, but aren't sure. How would you assure them that the application is worth it?
Well, I would definitely tell them to apply. You've already done the research, so you've already done the hardest part. And so the write-up itself is something that's incredibly rewarding. And, it's something that you'll learn a lot from just by doing it anyway. It's definitely good preparation for, college apps. And then beyond that, paper writing in college. And doing the actual work for it is so incredibly rewarding. I mean, that was probably one of the most rewarding things that I've ever submitted, I think, doing that paper. So definitely, if you've already done the experimentation, just go that extra mile and write the paper, and you will feel so good about yourself.
Yeah, I agree with James. It's definitely good preparation for later, and it's a great way to end a whole cycle of research and work. So it feels really rewarding to get it done. And it's not as much work as it looks. At first it looks like a lot, and it's a lot, but it's not as much as you think it is. And it does help with college apps later. So I feel like it's worth it in many different ways.
That's all really good advice. And I love what I've heard a couple of times already about how just submitting the application is an accomplishment in and of itself. It is so true. It really is the culmination of kind of your life's work at this point. And sometimes students have done multiple projects. Sometimes this is your first project, and that's all cool, right? We've seen students be successful in this program when that's the case, when both are the case. But just getting to share more about yourself and kind of why you did it too is super, super helpful. I think our next question here is for Vedant and Parisa. I want to get a sense of how much time did each of you spend on your applications? And I know this is always a curious one for me because we get all sorts of very different answers. So would love to hear from the two of you on this one.
Yeah, so at least for me, I spent on the application portion, I started it in the summer just to kind of get a head start on it. And I kind of planned my, I just kind of stuck to schedule and did certain parts of the application and got those things done at a specific date all the way until the deadline. So that way I was more spaced out on my application, and I could really kind of chip at it over time instead of cramming all the way to the end. And so I felt like that was a lot. I guess my advice for that was definitely just, I mean, I guess it's a little late now, but definitely if you did get started early on the application, and you'll be good.
Yeah, as Vedant mentioned, there are multiple portions of the application. So writing the actual paper takes quite a long time. For starting my research until getting to a polished paper stage was several months. So that portion is a large part of your application. So definitely that is a significant time commitment. Other portions of the application include personal essays, some scientific opinions. And for doing that, I gave myself, several days to get those essays and get to a point where I was happy with what I had. And another thing that I did that really helped with time management was I put all of the essay prompts on a Google Doc. So whenever I thought of an idea randomly for one of those prompts, I could put down that bullet point, and then that reduced how long I had to work on just writing the essay significantly.
Yeah, that is a great tip, Parisa. I know, sometimes inspiration when it comes to us at any moment, and sometimes you have to force it, but it's always easier when it comes to you. So that's a great way to capture it. Awesome. Thank you all. And also want to drive the point home too, that we've had finalists who are successful every year who start their application a couple of days before. I can't say I recommend it, but if that's you, know that it is possible. And that's what we'll mostly say about that. Let's see. Fareed, I have a question for you. Do you have any tips on how to best approach the application?
So like, I guess I have like a few tips. So like one thing to consider is that this is like not your typical science competition, right? In the regular science competition, you'd have a lot of like physical judging. People would like judges would like actually look at how you present a project. Just like note that in this competition, it's more of like getting to like the finalist stage, like until like up to the finalist stage is primarily like looking at your paper and like your written responses to a bunch of questions. So like don't approach it as you would like a regular science fair, because it's not like inherently it's not a regular science fair.
That is some awesome advice. Thank you. And kind of on the topic of advice, I guess my last question, I'm going to pose it to Justin. Do you have any advice for entrants in these final 10 days before the deadline?
Well, yeah. So first of all, I think it's really important to step back and take a look at all the work you've done so far. So, just being able to do your research, having what you have on hand is an incredible achievement. I don't think it's something that many high schoolers can do. So just by even, working on your application, that's already quite something. And then just writing up your answers, thinking about that, some of the other finalists they mentioned, it's important to take a break, take a look at what you've written, think of creative new ideas. And really that is true. In the final 10 days, you're really going to have to work on, presenting the best possible story of yourself. You want to tell your background, what motivates you, what you like about science research. And in terms of your actual, research, chances are you aren't going to make any groundbreaking discoveries in these 10 days. So just really work on telling your story. And I will say that I think, a huge part of STS, and Freed sort of talked about this, what makes it unique is that in many ways, STS values the communication of science just as much as the science itself. So really think about, some of your essay responses. Make sure they tell your story. Make sure that your scientific paper it's concise. It communicates your results well, and at the end of the day, take pride in your work.
Can I jump in with one more thing I was thinking of? Is that I would get someone to proofread your application, just because I thought that was very helpful for me to have my parents look over it, especially there are the portions where it's supposed to be like explain your project to a layman or something like that. And they were able to explain to me that it was still too technical and I had to, shift some stuff around.
Yeah, perspective is important. That is a good tip, Sam. Very good. All right. Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. I know application is on everyone's mind, but we're going to backtrack a little bit for anyone who might be looking to apply maybe next year, just to talk about kind of the research experience, right? I know everyone had very different experiences, probably even on this Zoom today, and everyone who's watching. And we know more and more students in the past 2 years have been doing research in the home environment due to the pandemic. This was also true, just to put this out there, that was also true before the pandemic. We just saw a huge increase, but it was increasing already just because these kinds of projects are very accessible and can be done very well. So I wanted to make that very clear. But I wanted to ask maybe Parisa and Wenjin, did either of you complete research at home or work on any like bioinformatics type of research or research that was doable from your home as your STS project? And you can tell us a little bit about that. Parisa, you're unmuted, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, for my project, it was all completed at home in a makeshift neuroscience lab that I built in my bathroom during the pandemic. And that was really fun. So basically what I was doing was I was looking at how did I do this research or parts of it in a lab before, and how can I mimic that in another environment? And so I had to improvise in a lot of ways. For example, I was dissecting flies and I could take some tweezers and sharpen them until they became fine forceps. And that was something that I did. For example, I had test tube racks that I made out of cardboard. I needed to image, but I didn't have a confocal microscope. So I improvised with other magnification tools and other, staining procedures. So a lot of it is just giving yourself the time to think how would I ideally do this? So maybe read some papers and look at their protocols. And then you can say, okay, what materials at home do I have that could, replicate some of these processes, or, give another version of those kinds of results. And yeah, give yourself a lot of time to dwell upon that. And yeah, in terms of thinking of those ideas, I would say the main thing is giving yourself a lot of time to think. So having a notebook and just jotting down any ideas, any questions that come to mind, and then maybe making a flow chart, or just sitting and pondering and thinking, what's a question that I really want to answer? I think that that's the best approach to take.
Awesome. Very creative. And also very cool TikTok video if you find Parisa on the internet. Great. And Wenjin, how about you?
My project was in computer science, which it seems to me that is relatively one of the fields that is easier to do like at home, because you don't have to be in a lab, or you don't have to have like a big microscope for physics. You have to have like, a bunch of cells and stuff for biology. I don't know that much about biology, so I can't go into that much detail. But yeah, so I did my research with a professor from Portland State University, and like the idea is like he's really chill. Like he didn't make it like do like every week meeting or something. Like we just called when we needed to, and we like I set appointments with him. But most of the work, the large propensity, super majority of the work was done with my laptop, and or a larger laptop for bigger processing power at home. And so yeah, I coded a lot of C++, a lot of Q#, and yeah, I will say like it wasn't just like the coding and like the programming. A lot of it was like the learning itself. I had to learn, especially when you're in a field such as quantum computing, which is a field that I did my project in. A large part of it is just like trying to understand all of these concepts that you're getting at. And I believe, like, I would say my professor Burkowski was extremely helpful in that. Like he spent a lot of time helping me learn. And of course, I feel that I put a lot of effort into it, and to trying to understand all of these things. And it's kind of like, I mean, to me, like it's not that like I went in thinking I have to get something out of this, but like once you start learning all of these things, especially if it's like a relatively new field, relatively unsaturated field, then it's more likely for you to just like think of something naturally if that is something that you want to do. And yeah, that is my story. It's probably not as like exciting as Parisa's homemade lab on TikTok, but it is something.
No, I think it's important, right? Like you can approach research in so many different ways. And as you were talking, Wenjin, I saw a lot of people nodding on this Zoom who were in the exact same position. And I think that's going to be true for a lot of people who are watching today. So very, very relevant. Cool. Elaine, what's next?
Next question. I'm going to go ahead and pose this one to Vivian. What was the experience like doing a research project as a high school student? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I think doing a research project as a high school student can definitely be very daunting. I know for like me and a lot of other people, this is like your first time jumping into the research world. So you do come across a lot of like roadblocks, but also a lot of learning curves because you're learning very technically within the field. And especially once you decide upon a project, there are a lot of different technicalities and also like material that you'll have to learn about. But I think like the most important thing, or things that like people typically have questions about, is like, as a high schooler, how do you come up with that idea? And like when you're trying to do like research, I think it just really comes from what you're passionate about. Think about like your day-to-day life. What is inspiration that you can draw from there, different issues you see in the world, and taking those inspirations and really just starting to design that experiment. Because once you have the idea, it's really like the first step of many, and each step after that just becomes so much easier once you're able to get that idea done. But for high school students, you can do research from anywhere. As like
Parisa and Wenjin both mentioned, they were both able to do research from like their homes. They didn't need to go into a laboratory setting. So it's really about adapting. And if you're really passionate about science, like finding ways to learn on your own, going on different like academic journals, reading different papers, and just trying to like adapt and learn and understand that you are a high school student. You may not be like the best expert in the field, but as long as you have that passion and that drive, you can like get a really great project through.
Great, thank you, Vivian. Our next question, we get this question a lot, and so curious for the response here. Vedant and James, did you have a mentor, and how did you find your mentor? If you didn't have one, what was it like to be unmentored? So tell us what your situations were.
Yeah, so I guess I can go first. I basically cold emailed a bunch of professors until I really found a mentor, and that actually took around like 2 years just to get a mentor. So if you find yourself in that situation where you don't have, I guess when your project is a lot more complicated than kind of your capacity, obviously it's hard to get professors on board with you that are willing to spend time with you to actually continue your project. So especially for me, I was in that same boat where I was taking on such a pretty complex project, and it was hard to get any research mentors to kind of back that up. And so I guess my biggest advice on that is to really just make yourself more knowledgeable on your subject and keep on, I guess, don't lose that determination, because eventually it will work out if you want it to. And I believe that if you continue to just keep going at it and continue to kind of expand your knowledge on the field, on your topics, and just kind of get a more broader understanding of kind of your field, then the professors, I guess, will be more likely to get on board with you and want to talk to you and potentially even actually help you with your project. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think what I have to add is be confident and spread a wide net. So the confidence thing it definitely has to come from a place of knowledge. So you do have to, like Vedant said, you have to really know your stuff. I found my mentor through cold emailing, just as Vedant did. And this was about, when I was in my sophomore year of high school. So, there was a long period of time that I was doing work with this mentor, including over the summer internships, like doing his research or helping out with the lab's research before I could do my own research in the lab under supervision. And it's really important that you find the right mentor for you, one that will let you do the work that you want to do as independently as possible. It's a really rewarding experience, but also that can give you guidance, but also spread a wide net. I mean, it took me a few months to find a mentor, and dozens of emails and referrals to really track down one that was able to accommodate me. And then definitely know your stuff, and if you have a plan and the professor is the right one for you, then you should have no problem finding a mentor that will be able to help you with your project.
That's great advice. And I think we see every year that people get very discouraged sometimes with trying to find a mentor. It definitely takes a long time. And so kind of speaking about that length of time as well, you all have kind of hinted at research projects that took multiple years, but we know that's not always the case. So Lucy and Justin, wanted to pose that question to you. How long did you spend on your research project, from kind of coming up with the idea to actual completion and having results?
Yeah, so I started my project in the summer of my sophomore year. The actual experimentation took about 1 month and a week for that short amount of time. And then I continued my research throughout the academic year of junior year, where I went every weekend to a lab at my state university. And for the rest of the research, when I was writing the paper, writing research plans, that was all done at home on the computer. So that hours were also counted. So in total, I would say about 1,000 hours on the entire research project.
Yeah, I want to echo largely a lot of what Lucy said. So I also worked on mine throughout my academic junior year. So that really entailed from the beginning to the end of the research process, looking at existing papers, existing results, and really, spending the time to understand the situation in the field before, designing the methodology or rather coming up with, a research question before that, executing that methodology. So I think the bulk of the time was spent on conducting the actual research, but of course, spending the time to really get that solid background is time that's not negligible. So all in all, that probably took me a year. And then obviously towards the end of it, I did work on writing it up, communicating it, and so forth.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. That's all very, very true. And it is so interesting that it is a very common approach, what you both mentioned, the junior year. To counter that, we also see students who spend a shorter time frame, which I think can be very common, especially in certain fields. So if you didn't spend a year on your project, that does not mean you can't be an STS finalist. We have plenty who spend less time.
As an example, I started my project in July, and I had never done anything in like that field of study at all before. So
there you go. See, Sam, that's great. And so it's very possible. And not to discount the long time that you get a lot of good lessons coming from long-term projects, and it's more common in certain fields. But yeah, absolutely. All of the above is true. Great. So we're gonna shift gears again because you've heard about the work. You're watching this. You're in it right now. We're so sorry, but what's there to look forward to? And we think that there's definitely a lot. So we want to talk about the finals week competition. So if you're not familiar, watch our first webinar because we go through all the details of STS. But from the entrant pool, we will name a group of top 300 finalists in early January, 300 scholars, sorry, in early January, who each received $2,000, as do their schools. And later that month, we name our top 40 finalists, each of whom received $25,000 and the opportunity to compete for more, up to $250,000 in our finals week competition. But it's unlike other STEM competitions that are out there. We'll let the finalists tell you about that and why that's so. So maybe we'll kick it off. Fareed and Vetri, perfect, you're together there. What were your reactions when you were named finalists out of the entire entrant pool? How did that feel and what did it mean to you?
It was pretty surreal because I hadn't really gotten named in any national competition before. So when I first got the call, I remember questioning whether it was top 300 or top 40. So I was like, if you're trying to tell me that I'm top 300, I already know. But no, it was top 40. So that was really cool. And it took a little bit to sink in, but I was very grateful. It was already $25K for college. And yeah.
For me, it was yeah, I would agree with Vetri that it was very surreal. I was in a physics club meeting, and I was on camera, because it was a Zoom meeting. And I remember I got the call and I just moved to the side, so that people couldn't see me. And then I was listening, and then they're like, you're a finalist. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was in my mind, I was like, that's crazy. So I just left the meeting. And I just needed time to process it because it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. And I was extremely happy. I remember that day, later that day, I told my parents, and they're also extremely excited for me. But yeah, it was learning about it was that made me extremely happy.
Cool. Any other reactions or surprises from the group?
I got my call when I was on a run, and so I thought it was spam because I live near DC, so I saw it was a DC call. So I picked it up, and there were cars going by, so I couldn't really hear what was going on. So my reaction was a little underwhelming, but I ran home so fast. That was the fastest mile I've ever ran. I was really excited, so it was a great feeling. I'll put on.
Oh yeah, I'd also like to add, it was I was actually I was actually in a college interview. So my call went to missed call initially. And so after the interview, I like looked at my phone and there was a call from DC. And so I don't know if we're supposed to say this, but like the calls come a day before the finalists are announced. So I didn't actually know that. So, but like I saw it was from DC. So I knew that there could, like, in the slightest of chances, I was like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? So I called back thinking that it's probably a spam call. But then they were like, oh yeah, you're a finalist. And then I was shocked because I legitimately, it was a surprise to me. So yeah, no, it was a really surreal moment.
Awesome to be rewarded for all the hard work that you've put in over so many years. So very justified reaction. Cool.
All right, and I think we have our next question for Sam and Vivian. Many people don't realize that there are two types of judging during the finals week competition, those judging panel interviews and project judging. Can you explain a little bit about how they work, or just talk about your judging experience in general?
So I guess I can talk a little bit about like the two different types of judging. So obviously, like in a normal type science fair experience that like many people are used to, you have like the judging that's for your project where all the judges get to come up to your project and sorry, ask you like different questions about your experimental design, your results, the implications. And so it's stuff that you're very like comfortable talking about. You just get to talk about your work. And it's a lot of fun to be able to also hear all of the judges' inputs because they all come from different areas of academia. So the way that one judge may view your project or the questions that they come up with may be very different from another. So I found that to be like a very fun and interesting experience. And the second type of judging, the judging panel interviews, are definitely unconventional from like what many people are used to in like science competitions where you present, where you have like a project for your entry. And so in the judging panel portion of like these interviews, you're doing more like you're answering questions from the judges on a lot of different areas of science. And I always found the questions to be very creative. They're testing more the way that you think as a scientist and the way that you can adapt, even if like you may not know the material. I found myself many times like not really knowing what to make of a question, but just trying my best to use what I know and all of the pieces of information that I do have in an area on like how to like answer these questions, coming up with different creative solutions. It was obviously like more stressful because it's not in your comfort zone area, but it's definitely an interesting experience and like you get to learn a lot out of it.
Yeah, and I don't. I think Vivian explained the difference well. I think the what is it called? The judging panels that are judging panel interviews are much more stressful just because you are out of your comfort zone. And I think I'm sure you'll learn more about this if you become a finalist, but it is definitely a unique experience in that no one ever you're never asked a biology question and like expected to answer it without like studying biology or anything like that. So a very unique experience, I'll say. Pretty stressful, but know that everyone else is also being asked questions they don't know the answers to.
That is very true, Sam. And they're meant to explore the depth and breadth of scientific knowledge and problem solving. So I never expected everyone knows all the answers, and becomes a kind of a fun bonding experience for all the finalists. My next question is for Tali. Besides all the judging events, which we've covered here, finalists attend special field trips and meet STEM speakers and bond with one another. And we like to say that the finals week experience is the real prize of STS and everything else is just bonus. So I'm curious, what were some of your favorite events during the finals week that are not related to judging?
So I really enjoyed paint night where we all got paintbrushes and a canvas and we all like did something together and it was really fun. We had like many show and tells where people would bring in like things from, their like hometowns or like anything about their lives, and they would like talk about it, which was also really cool and a really good way of like getting to know the people competing with you. We had a yoga event that was also really cool. Yeah, there were a lot of different things.
Awesome. And did anyone have any favorite STEM speakers from our primetime field trips? Anyone stand out?
Obviously, the Nobel Prize panel was very cool and neat. Essentially, what they did for us is brought us in, the 4 Nobel Prize winners kind of talking, and they put us in little breakout rooms so we could have smaller conversations with one of the Nobel Prize winners, which was a very unique and cool experience. Not many high schoolers get to do that.
Yeah, definitely a pretty special one for sure. Elaine, how about you?
Yeah, pretty amazing that even in a virtual environment, there was still so much you could do as a community and to learn more together. And so my next question is for Wenjin. What single word would you use to describe the virtual STS experience and why?
As for the virtual part, I would, I think a word that sounds good is juggernaut. In the sense that it's just the thing that like impressed me most, like at least not most, but like quite a bit, is just like how well organized and how like well run the entire thing was. It's just something I did not expect from a like science competition, because in my experience of science competitions, like at the state level, at the local level, they were not run well at all. And like the judges and like the state and local level, they were like not as good as, having all these accredited scientists from like all around the US or like all around the world from Regeneron. And like Regeneron, I like it's like a big company, and they can like they can organize stuff very well. Like they have like institutions for that, it's business stuff. I need to learn about that in like later in college, but yeah, that's something that really impressed me. Just like how if there's a problem, it gets solved extremely fast. And I think that like really helped make the virtual experience, especially because it was virtual. It's bound to have many kinds of problems, like that you would maybe like not have in like a in-person experience normally. And yeah, we were all like all adapting to that during the pandemic. And I just feel like the Society for Science and Regeneron were very capable, and they were very helpful throughout the entire time, and that made the experience so much better, I would say. Yeah, that is the word juggernaut. Juggernaut in terms of the ability of the company and the organization to do things very well.
Yes, well, we appreciate that, Wenjin. We will pass it along to our team and our colleagues at Regeneron. But just like all of you living through the pandemic and having to adapt to competition, it is crazy. I'm sure many of the adults watching this can appreciate that too, but it's worth it to make this experience possible for all of you guys. Great. So next question, Parisa, what did you enjoy the most about finals week?
So what I enjoyed the most was the conversations that we had after judging, and that weren't, like a part of all of that kind of more stressful or academic event. So we would just hop into Zoom rooms, and hopefully in the future it won't be virtual and people can reconvene in person, but we would just be in a Zoom call and we would all be talking to each other, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be STEM related or school related or anything like that. It was just really nice to interact with such smart kids who are also super compassionate and kind and friendly, and make friends so early in the competition. And now I'm going to school with 3 of them, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's always super special to see that you guys stay in touch. And so next question, I'm going to pose this one to Justin. What surprised you the most about STS and how it was implemented as a virtual experience?
Yeah, so I've got to say, virtual STS was one of the most, if not the most engaging virtual experiences that I've ever had. So you really think about how boring Zoom meetings are. STS was not that. Ali and her team, the whole team at Society for Science, were incredible at organizing it. It really surprised me. I remember the day that we were notified we were finalists. I was surprised, obviously, and then it was either the next day or within the week that 3 huge boxes arrived at my door, and I was like that's some pretty quick shifting. So that was really surprising, and they got us all the equipment we needed. There were backdrops. They gave each of us an iPad, cameras, lights, and all that. So it really made us feel like we were in studio, that this was the real deal. We were all together, and just having that virtual experience be almost physical was really, really surprising.
Great, thank you. Great. And then one other question about this, and we'll talk about some other parts, or I guess two others. James, what advice would you give to future like STS finalists to help them get the most out of the finals week experience? Or is there anything that you wish you had known going in that that you didn't?
Well, I would say try and talk to everyone and get to know everyone. That's like the best part, at least for me, you know, echoing what Parisa said. And becoming close with the other finalists, with people who are extremely smart and really passionate about, you know, whatever issue that they're focusing on. It's really inspiring, and it makes for a great time and great conversation. And so definitely during finals week, you know, try and meet as many people as possible, you know, all of the finalists, get to know all of them and participate in all the events, you know, go to all of the things and you'll have a wonderful time. And don't, you know, it's really amazing. And all the events that we did were fantastic, and I had a great time. And I'm so glad that I went to all of them. And I tried to go to every single event, and I think I did pretty well. So I wouldn't change a thing about my experience. It was fantastic.
Great, thank you. And so one last question about the finals week experience, and I'm going to pose this one to Vetri. What would you say is the best thing you gained from the experience of finals week?
That's pretty hard to say because there was a lot of different things. But I'd say like breaking up into like academic / project, and then like personal. I'd say in terms of the project, like I actually had to think a lot more deeply, just out of nervousness about the judges' questions, but also like when they did ask the questions, and like working through those. And like also the questions that were really hard to prepare for, like some of them were really interesting, and like I ended up doing like further research into them and learning more. No, yeah, so I guess overall it just like improved the way I thought about science. And then on a more personal level, like being from Maine, I was a little bit isolated, so it was great to like meet like other kids that are like really good in their own fields and also generally. And definitely built a sense of community, and I finally knew some people going into college and stuff, so that was cool.
Awesome, thanks, Vetri. What some of you may or may not know on who are watching this tonight, we actually, while the finals week was a virtual experience, we were actually very lucky to be able to gather safely this summer for an in-person retreat with many COVID safety protocols. And it was amazing to finally be together because we really value community here at Regeneron STS. So I'm just curious what people got out of the retreat. I don't know, Tally, if you would like to share, and Fareed, what were maybe some favorite parts?
So there were many really cool things that we did. I remember axe throwing. We had the bicycle building, and we went to DC one day and went to museums, and it was all really cool. But the best part was really getting to know the people that went with us, and there's so many people here at Harvard right now that like just made the whole like transition process so much easier. And yeah, getting to know everyone in general was really cool.
So like the resort was like obviously super fun in that you got to like meet people like in person as opposed to like just virtually, and like that was probably one of the biggest takeaways I got from it. Like there are a few takeaways, but like this is the biggest one, right? Because like this is like basically my only vacation through summer break, because before and after I was studying for like stuff so I could like get credit for classes before actually getting to college. And like Sam and Munjan are shaking like nodding their heads because they're doing the same thing. But so I didn't really have much vacation. So this is like basically my only vacation. But like even bigger than that was the fact that I got to meet all these wonderful people in person, get to know them better, and like, I guess, like cement my connection with all these people. And it was very, very awesome just like talking to the people in person. And then as Sally mentioned, we're gonna like we meet the same people in college because there are a bunch of people from like STS who are in the same college. And so it's like it's really nice to like recognize people from like to recognize people here that we knew before MIT or like before college in general. And that was like probably the biggest takeaway, just like meeting all these people in person, getting to know them personally.
Yeah, that is amazing to hear. And it kind of leads us really well into our last section of questions, which is talking a lot about the community that you build, not just as an STS class, but maybe as members of STS in general. You know, there's a huge alumni network that you all get to be a part of as a part of participating in the competition. And then, as you mentioned, during finals week, you get introduced to amazing scientists and get to grow your network that way. So my first question here is going to go to Lucy. What was your greatest takeaway from participating in Regeneron STS?
Yeah, so I would definitely echo with the point that we met a lot of people within our class who were going to the same college as us. And also during the summer, we had a retreat and then we get to meet the finalists from last year. So I made some friends through both years. And especially during the finals week, we were meeting a Regeneron alumni who were working in different fields in the industry or the academia. So I would say STS's benefit has led me to see the science world in a much bigger and more perspective. And then also another takeaway is that just seeing the projects that different people do has allowed me to see the interdisciplinary nature of science. And there are so many ways and approaches you can take to analyze just one issue. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Lucy. And for any viewers who are curious about the research of our finalists today, you can easily find on our website links to the videos that they made about their own work last year. So highly recommend checking those out. Great. My next question is for Vedant. How has becoming an alum of STS impacted your life?
Yeah, so just to go off what other people have already said, I guess like the biggest thing was really meeting a group of people who are quite literally going to change the world in the next 10, 15 years. And I guess when you kind of come in as a finalist, you feel like I guess feel like I still keep in touch with many of the other finalists, and I kind of view them as kind of an extended family in a way. And just, you know, I guess I can go to them, you know, I feel very comfortable talking to them. And so I guess just being an STS alumnus is really just rewarding in kind of the people you can meet, and kind of just staying in touch and really just seeing what, I guess, down the line how those connections might even pay off. So yeah, just really building a very not only professional network, but really I would say personal and intimate network. Yeah.
And it kind of feels a little silly to ask as you sit surrounded by so many of your peers. But Parisa, have you come across any other STS alums in college or stayed in touch with peers from your program?
Yes, as you can see, I have 3 friends here. Actually, the other day I was walking across the street and getting a cup of coffee, and I saw someone wearing the same STS shirt that James is wearing. This is the shirt that you get just by applying. And we were talking about the application, which was really cool because I had never met him before. The Dean of Undergraduate STEM here at Yale is an alum of the competition. I think he competed in the 80s and got 2nd place, which is super cool because we were talking to him a few months ago about some judging questions and we were bonding over that. And even aside from Yale, I still keep in touch with a lot of the finalists who are going to different schools, and we've just become really great friends.
That is awesome to hear. meeting cross-generational alumni who you will always have something in common with, and you'll all continue to be in each other's lives for years to come as you go to grad school and into your careers and all of that. So that's awesome. It's off to such a great start. My last question here is for Vetri. What are you looking forward to in the future? And do you think STS will help you achieve your long-term goals?
Well, I'll answer like if I think STS will help me achieve my long-term goals, because it already has. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gotten in without STS. So that was nice. And now that I STS does open the doors to get into definitely one of the top 5 or so schools in the US. And once you get there, there's so many opportunities, and also the network you build as an STS student. So those 2 factors make a huge difference. And it also made me a lot more confident in my skills as a scientist, or just my rational thinking skills in general. So now I feel like I can go into other fields of study even different from my project, and still do a good job and learn it at a deeper level and contribute to the field, which is a good feeling.
Oh, that is a great feeling. Thank you, Vetri. We have some questions from the audience, just a handful that we'll pose to you all today. But before we do that, does anyone have a favorite STS memory or a favorite part of the program that they would like to share? And you guys have covered a lot of ground, so it's okay if not. We'll let you think on it, and then we'll answer some of these questions from the audience, and then you can share. But the first question we have here, what do y'all feel was the most important part of your project? Does anyone want to tackle that question? Any volunteers? Lucy, what was the most important part for your project, part of your project?
I would say that the most important part is are the essays that we had to write for the application, because they told the story of my research. So it's not just the results of my research. Of course, also important, but it also tells your creative thinking process and how you got inspired for your research. Because the point of STS, the logo on the T-shirt over there, literally says "Be inspired." So I think the point of this competition is also to see your potential as a scientific leader. So I think the essays that tell the narrative, the background behind my research is the most important to me.
That is a perfect answer. Context is incredibly important in the application. As you all have been saying, it's not just about the research. It's a very important part, but it really is about who you are as a person. So yeah, take them seriously. That's great advice. Next question. When working on your project, what was your biggest worry about a deficiency in your application that you thought might cause you problems? That's a good question. I won't force anyone to answer it, but any volunteers? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, so I guess I can answer that. So my project was pretty theoretical in terms of, I guess, getting all the data, because I didn't have access to experimental equipment for my research. So my biggest worry was not showing the experimental portion and actually getting real world results. And I thought that would kind of lure, push away judges from my project. But as you can see, I guess that wasn't really a big thing. I guess they were fine with it being theoretical, but yeah, I guess that was one of my biggest worries.
My biggest worry was that there'd be some big mistake in my research paper that the judges noticed that I didn't notice. And I mean, there's no 100% proof method to find all the mistakes in your research paper, I guess, besides just rereading it over and over again, covering things over and over again to make sure you have it all down. Yeah.
Well, yeah, these are, oh yeah, Fareed, go for it.
This isn't in relation to the question asked, but this is in relation to the question about your favorite memory in STS. Is it okay if I answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. So I would say my favorite memory is someone mentioned reference Zoom calls before. My favorite would probably be the late night Zoom calls we had, because like they were after all the events of the day, and we would just like log on to a meeting, like a Zoom call, and like we'd be talking and like playing games for hours. I remember, I especially remember like there's this game called Tanks, and yeah, everyone's laughing because they know, but this guy right here, he's so good at that game. So everyone who was on his team always won. But it was like those calls were like very, very precious memories to me.
I don't know if anyone out there ever meets Vetri, now you know, have him on your Tanks team. All right.
Yeah. I just want to say that also, like, aside from the like night Zoom calls during finals week, like even though it was online, like everyone took a week off from school. So you had like the whole day like dedicated to that. And like anytime like in between like events or judging sessions, you could always like go on the Zoom, and there would always be like someone there to talk to you. So like it was a really cool like kind of like immersive experience to like always have like the group ready to like play a game or like talk about the judging or like talk about anything else. So that was really cool too.
That's great. Nice to have that support for sure. Great. Yeah, go for it.
Add something. So I think just after the judging sessions, I know like it can be very, very stressful during judging, but after judging, when the finalists gather together and discuss the questions, it's really fun to see how different people have different answers to the same question. And then when you're comparing your answers, it's kind of like, it's just fun to know that like maybe you got it right, like because of some questions you don't really have a right answer, so it's just fun to see how different people think about the same question.
Yeah, I think that's what makes judging fun, even though it seems like it can be stressful. You don't know all the answers, but then you learn nobody else knew all the answers, and there are so many fun ways to do it. Great. Another question we have for you: what aspect of yourself do you believe helped you become a Regeneron finalist? It's a good question. Does anyone want to answer that? Go for it.
I would say there's no like defining aspect of you. Obviously, it's more the work you produce and so really just the work you put in, I would say. I guess there's one aspect of a person, it'd be like a work ethic, to just go through your project and continue pushing to your results and write your application and make all that good. But I don't think that's more of a trait, that you just have to really enjoy what you're doing, kind of. So yeah, that's kind of a non-answer, but
yeah, all those things help. Yeah, Parisa, how about you?
Yeah, I would say for me, a lot of it was ingenuity. So I think the fact that I did my project at home and had to improvise so much kind of showed that I was really passionate about what I wanted to do. And I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And I think that that's a super important trait in any scientist, the fact that you're willing to adapt effectively to new situations. And I think also just having genuine passion, not just doing this for, a pretty resume, but because you actually want to learn something new and you actually want to explore and contribute to a certain scientific field. So as long as you demonstrate, those characteristics, and as long as they're true to you, only good things will happen.
I definitely second that. I think the one thing for me is that the passion about the research topic. Like whenever I talk about my topic, even now, it really gets me fired up and like wanting to talk about it with people. And so, that it always kept me driven to finishing the project, even when it became a slog at points. But, in the end, I still find the topic incredibly rewarding and interesting. So I think having that passion for the topic is very, very important.
It helps. Yeah, Vetri.
Yeah, so I think one thing was I tend to be a perfectionist, and usually this is like a bad thing in school. But when it came to like doing a research project where I had more time and stuff, I think it helped. Like, so although my project was in like machine learning type stuff where sometimes it's a little bit hand wavy and it like feels like a black box, but like I think trying to be a perfectionist helped in terms of like I was like bothered when I didn't understand how it worked. So like I really wanted to understand it more deeply. And then also like in terms of getting results and stuff, like I tried to make sure like I always knew how to interpret them or like that they weren't like messy results and stuff. And I think that helped a lot in writing paper and also like talking to judges about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. And I think maybe we'll end with one final question. Was it worth it? All the work and the effort, and everyone feels that they got good things out of it. That's what our entrants want to hear right now. Any final words of advice or wisdom for them from anyone? Just keep on going. You're so close and almost there is what I would say. Anything can happen. That's usually good. So please keep it up. We know you've got great things to share. And I would love to thank our alumni for being with us here today. I know we've gone a bit over, or quite a bit over, but they had so many good pieces of advice to share with entrants today. We wish all of you the best, all finalists. I know you're going to be great. We're going to hear from you more often all the time still. And, we're always here with the STS alumni community. Can't wait to see what you do next. And I know all of our friends here on this call will support all of you, the 2022 finalists who are out there, perhaps watching this as you go through the same experience. So we're all looking forward to that. Anything else, Elaine?
Nothing to add, except if you do have questions after all of these webinars, definitely still feel free to reach out to us at sts@societyforscience.org. Always happy to help, especially in this final stretch. And last words from us, just as the society team, are that we're rooting for you, and we cannot wait to hit that deadline and see all the amazing applications that have come our way. So thank you so much for watching.
That's right. And that deadline is November 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But don't forget the technical support deadline 24 hours before that, where we're guaranteed to help support any issues that you have. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.